Thank you, Mr. President. You would think, listening to this, that people who want some common sense regulations don't believe in clean water. You would think that somehow if we do this, the Charles River or the Cuyahoga River, all of a sudden, having been navigable, their whole, the whole while here under the Clean Water Act jurisdiction suddenly wouldn't be navigable. I mean, that is not the case. That is not the case, and I think that it's really important that we ratchet down the emotion and we start looking at the facts. And let's start with where we are right now, with this idea of what is in fact jurisdictional waters under the Clean Water Act. This has been a debate for 40 years. It's been in and out of the courts for 40 years. In 1985, the court made a ruling. In 2001, the court made a ruling, and in 2006, the court decided a case called Rapanos. And what Rapanos said is 4 justices said EPA's right, 4 justices said EPA's wrong, and 1 justice said EPA may be right. And as a result, we have created a system that creates and that has caused great uncertainty in America today as it relates to how we use land. Okay, acting into that uncertainty, EPA promulgated a rule. That rule is inconsistent, in my opinion, with the direction that they were given by the courts. That rule has created an incredible amount of uncertainty. And to suggest that every major ag group, every group that is out there, including the Association of Counties, including many of the governors, are all wrong and they all love dirty water, is absolutely insulting as we kind of move forward on this discussion. I'm going to show you why North Dakota is concerned about this regulation. I'll go up here, Joe. This is an aerial picture of my state. You know, you may not think that. You may not think that there's a lot of water in North Dakota. This is a picture of my state in Devil's Lake, in the Devil's Lake area, and you might say, oh, she picked a picture that looks like this. I ask and invite any of you to come to North Dakota, and I'll fly you anywhere in North Dakota. This is what North Dakota looks like. And you see all this water here, and you see all this water here, and you see this. See that? That's a pothole, what we call a prairie pothole. Used to be, and seasonally is full of water. Sometimes it's farmed, sometimes it's not. Is this waters of the United States? It's not connected to any navigable stream. It's not adjacent to any kind of navigable water, moving water. None of this is connected with any kind of cross-land connection. But I will tell you, under the rule that we have, and under the interpretations of the Corps of Engineers, which we always forget when we're talking about this, the Corps of Engineers and EPA, what they would say is, we don't know. We'd have to send biologists out to take a look at this. We'd have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, of taxpayer dollars, to determine whether in fact there is substantial nexus. We asked for a simple rule that you ought to, first, as just as a point of view, when the statute says navigable water, that water ought to be moving someplace other than into the ground. All water in the world is interconnected. We know that. That's a matter of hydrology. That's a matter of science. And scientists would say there's no such thing as a discrete separation. But you know what? Legally, there is. It did not say every drop of water is controlled by the Environmental Protection Agency under the Clean Water Act. It said navigable waters. And we have been in this fight for a lot of years, including 2006. I want to make this point, and I know, Mr. President, that we are in excess of the time. I'd ask for just a little more time to conclude my remarks.
Without objection.
Want to make this point, because it really is a question. You know, the senators who have come here and talked about this rule, talked about, look, we're making progress. What they haven't told you is that rule has absolutely no legal effect anywhere in this country today. You know why? Because the courts of the United States have stayed it. It's not in effect while we litigate yet another case. And so when we looked at this problem and we looked at trying to give certainty to farmers who own this land, by the way, this land's not owned by the people of this country. This land is owned by farmers who need certainty, who need to know. And so we looked at this, we said, it is time for Congress to do what Congress ought to do, which is legislate, which is to actually make a decision, to not just get on either side of a regulatory agency and yell about whether they're right or wrong, but actually engage in a dialogue. And that's why Senator Donnelly and Senator Barrasso and Senator Inhofe and I sat down and said, look, this will continue in perpetuity. We will spend millions of dollars litigating this and never get an answer. Because chances are we're back to 441. And that's not an answer. And so we put together a piece of legislation looking at how can we as legislators, as Congress, provide some parameters on what this means. Now, people who will vote no on a motion to proceed will tell you, we want EPA to decide. And I'm telling you that people in this country expect Congress to decide. They expect Congress to make this decision, to step up and resolve this controversy, because 40 years and millions of dollars spent in litigation is not a path forward. And so as we look at this legislation, simply on a motion to proceed, on one of the most controversial issues in America today, which is waters of the United States, not voting to debate this issue, not voting to proceed on this issue is the wrong path forward. And so I would urge my colleagues to open up the debate and let's talk about this map, not the Charles River and not the Cuyahoga River, because I will concede today that they are navigable water. But I want to know, in what world is this navigable water of the United States? In what world should EPA have jurisdiction over this pond? And in what world, when you're the farmer who owns it, do you think you have any certainty as we move forward? We are trying to give certainty to the American taxpayer. We're trying to give certainty to people who build roads and bridges. We're trying to actually have a debate on an important issue of our time. And so I urge my colleagues to vote yes on the motion to proceed so that we can have an open debate. It could be fun as we talk about this issue. So with that, Mr. President, I yield the floor.